Am I the only person that thinks this is hilarious? I'm trying to. Is this the only time we've ever seen a situation like this happen, where a player has been suspended, not for a game, for a half? She's suspended for a half. I don't think I've ever.
They said it would never happen. That a franchise would never dare to suspend their most marketable player, their self-proclaimed star, in the middle of a season where the team already had nothing to lose. But that's exactly what just happened in Chicago. Angel Reese, the player who once demanded she be recognized as Caitlin Clark's equal.
And they're basically unhappy with the direct attacks. They are even planning a team meeting to talk about it. We'll read you some of the excerpts, which does kind of not make her team look good. One of which say, "We can't rely on Courtney," that's Courtney Vandersloot, "to come back at the age that she's at. I know she'll be a great asset for us, but we can't rely on that. We need someone probably a little younger with some experience."
Has now been handed one of the most bizarre punishments the WNBA has ever seen. Not a game suspension, not even a week away from the team. No, Angel Reese has been suspended for a half, just 30 minutes of basketball. It's the kind of punishment you'd expect in a college program when a coach wants to make a point. But this? A professional organization handing down a half-game suspension? That's unheard of, and it tells you everything you need to know about just how fractured this locker room has become. The Sky aren't suspending her to teach her a lesson. They're suspending her because the entire roster has reached its breaking point and they can't even stomach 2 full halves of basketball alongside her. The unraveling began the moment Angel Reese opened her mouth and went public with words that cut deeper than any opponent's elbow. She didn't just question her team's direction. She didn't just critique the front office. She specifically named her own teammates.
Doesn't believe her teammates Rachel Banham or Haley Van Lith are capable of leading a playoff team. Guard Ariel Atkins is another player on the Sky's roster with WNBA championship experience. Tyler Marsh said, "We are aware of it," what Angel Reese said. "We're addressing it in-house as currently speaking. That's where we'll stay right now."
Veterans who had given everything for the franchise and declared them unfit to compete for a championship. Rachel Banham, not a leader. Haley Van Lith, lacking what it takes to guide a playoff run. Courtney Vandersloot, too old to rely on. Ariel Atkins, championship pedigree, but apparently not enough to meet Angel's impossible standards. These weren't vague frustrations tossed out in a heated moment. They were calculated public shots, each one a bullet that ripped through team chemistry. And when those words hit the headlines, the Chicago Sky's locker room erupted into chaos. You have to understand, this is a team that's already drowning in disappointment. They weren't winning. They weren't climbing the standings. And they weren't the flashy fun group they hoped to be when they built around Angel Reese's hype. Instead of leading, instead of rallying her teammates through the storm, Reese chose to torch the very people she shared the court with. It wasn't frustration, it was betrayal. And that's why the reaction was so swift, so cold, and so final. The players called a meeting without her. They sat down as professionals and asked themselves one simple question: how much longer can we take this? And for the first time, even her strongest allies had no answer left.
The reason I don't feel bad when I refer to the WNBA as a toxic turd. Not only have they damn near ruined their opportunity with Caitlin Clark, the dump diver they chose to support, the pretend basketball player they have spent the last 2 years begging you to support. They desperately want her to be accepted. They are desperate to make her a star. Not only has she been rejected by normal...
Rachel Banham, the veteran guard who sacrificed her body season after season for the franchise, admitted she felt blindsided. She said she was over it, too grown to care anymore. That wasn't indifference, it was exhaustion. Ariel Atkins, one of Reese's few consistent defenders, finally broke too. She supported the organization's decision to suspend her own teammate. And when asked if she'd been in touch with Reese after the chaos, her answer was sharp and simple: no. That's when it became clear. Angel Reese had not only lost her team, she had lost the very people who had once gone to battle for her. But if Reese thought she could walk it all back with a quick apology, she was wrong. Because when she attempted damage control, claiming her comments were taken out of context, the locker room wasn't buying it. Teammates weren't angry about misinterpretation. They were angry because her words were clear.
Same we did this year. We have to get good players. We have to get great players. That's a non-negotiable for me. I am willing and wanting to play with the best. And however I can help to get the best here, that's what I'm going to do this offseason. So it's going to be very, very important this offseason to make sure that we attract the best of the best, because we can't settle for what we have this year. So her saying we can't settle for what we have this year, that is basically like a slap in the face to Becca Allen. That is a slap in the face to Rachel Banham. That is
cutting and deliberate. The context wasn't the issue. The betrayal was. And once trust is broken in a professional locker room, it rarely comes back. For Chicago, this half-game suspension was more than punishment. It was a warning shot. A clear message to Reese and to the league that no player, no matter how marketable or hyped, is above the team. And behind closed doors, sources say the organization is preparing for something much bigger. This wasn't just about 30 minutes of basketball, it was the first step toward divorce. The Chicago Sky are laying the groundwork to cut ties with the face of their failure. And if that happens, Angel Reese's fall from grace will go down as one of the fastest and most dramatic in WNBA history. Because this wasn't just bad leadership, it was self-sabotage, and the league won't forget it. The writing was already on the wall the moment Angel Reese doubled down. Instead of taking responsibility, instead of owning the fact that she had trashed her teammates in front of the entire basketball world, she tried to spin the narrative.
Safety, respect, and well-being of every player. We're committed to accountability so our players can stay focused on playing basketball. Because of statements made by Angel Reese during league-mandated media, I've never seen this before, but she is getting suspended for a half. Not a game. Not a game. One half. One half she is getting suspended for. That is absolutely hilarious.
She claimed her words were misconstrued, twisted by the media, taken out of context. But that excuse only made things worse. Her teammates weren't fooled. They knew exactly what she had said and exactly how she meant it. These weren't accidental slip-ups in a heated interview. These were deliberate shots fired at the same players who had defended her in the past. And when you take a blowtorch to your own locker room, there's no walking that back. What Reese didn't seem to understand was simple. Leadership in the WNBA isn't about statistics, rebounds, or Instagram followers. It's about respect. It's about elevating the people around you. Caitlin Clark figured that out in her rookie season, facing the most hostile crowds and brutal defenses the league had seen in years. Every time she was knocked to the floor, every time the media questioned her toughness, she praised her teammates and deflected attention from herself. Clark built loyalty through humility.
And out, obviously, I might have to move in a different direction and do what's best for me. And listen, I totally get that, because if you are somebody with a lot of star power, you don't want your career just like rotting away in a place, especially the Sky. The GM, Jeff Pagliacca, he absolutely sold the Sky's future. He traded away draft picks for this like win now mentality. And who he drafted? Now, I don't want to speak bad about Hailey Van Lith, but she has not had a mentor to actually mentor her to be any proper type of point guard. So she's kind of been flying in the dark. She hasn't exactly proven.
And that's why her teammates would run through a wall for her. Reese, she chose the opposite path. She made herself the star at the expense of everyone else. And in doing so, she lost the very thing every franchise needs most: trust. That's why the suspension, as strange as it sounded on paper, carried so much weight. A half-game benching wasn't about optics. It was about the Sky telling their locker room, "We hear you, we value you." And no one, not even Angel Reese, is bigger than this team. Behind the scenes, though, the fallout was even worse than the public realized. Teammates stopped communicating with her. Players who once backed her in media scrums went silent. Even coaches who had tried to protect her earlier in the season were forced to admit she had crossed a line. And perhaps the most damning sign of all, the Sky front office began quietly shopping her name in trade conversations. They weren't calling her the future anymore. They weren't calling her the face of the franchise. They were calling her a problem. And in professional sports, once your own organization labels you as more headache than help, the clock on your career with that team is already ticking. Angel Reese's words about
in an interview threw her Chicago Sky teammates under a bus and then ran the bus over them and then backed up the bus, bouncing over them again, and then proceeded to drive over them one more good time just to be sure that their carcasses were no longer twitching. It was one of the most me, selfish ass interviews I've ever heard from any athlete, trashing her very own team.
Needing great players weren't just seen as competitive fire, they were received as arrogance, as entitlement, as a slap in the face to veterans who had sacrificed more than she realized. To tell players like Rachel Banham or Courtney Vandersloot that they weren't good enough wasn't just inaccurate, it was disrespectful to careers built on grit, sweat, and loyalty. Reese was demanding greatness without having earned the right to lead it. That's why the anger cut so deep. In a league where players already battle for respect from fans, media, and even their own front offices, the last thing they needed was betrayal from inside. And betrayal is exactly what they felt. The irony, of course, is that Reese positioned herself as a victim in all this. She acted like the organization was holding her back, like her teammates weren't up to her level, like Chicago's failures had nothing to do with her. But the numbers told a different story. Turnovers piling up, inconsistencies in key moments, a pattern of blaming others when things went wrong.
I don't think I'm frustrated. I probably am frustrated myself right now. I think the language is taken out of context, and I really didn't intentionally mean to put down my teammates because they've been through this with me throughout the whole year. They've busted their ass just how I busted my ass. They showed up for me through thick and thin and in the locker room when nobody could see anything. So I would apologize to my teammates, which I already have, about the article and how it was misconstrued, about what was said. And I just have to be better with my language because I know it's not the message, it's the messenger, and understanding what I say can be taken any kind of way. So I just have.
For someone who wanted to be the face of the league, Reese hadn't mastered the most important part, owning her role in the struggle. Contrast that again with Clark, who despite being roughed up all season long, despite the constant spotlight, never blamed her teammates once. That's the divide. That's why fans are rallying around one and turning on the other. And that's why the Chicago Sky's patience has evaporated. This entire saga reveals something bigger about the league itself. The WNBA is desperate for stars, desperate for personalities who can grab headlines and bring attention. And for a while, Angel Reese fit that mold. She was loud, bold, unafraid to call out anyone and everyone. But star power without substance is a ticking time bomb. Eventually, the noise outweighs the production. And when it does, organizations are forced to make hard choices. That's the stage Chicago has reached. The half-game suspension was the first domino. What comes next could be far more permanent. Already, insiders are whispering that this was only step one.
What is this, college football? I've seen in college where people will get suspended for a half. Not in the pros. People getting suspended for a half game in the pros. Just suspend her for the whole game. Y'all don't have nothing to lose. Y'all don't have nothing to lose. If you're going to suspend her, just suspend her for another game. It is what it is. You know what I mean? Suspending her for a half is kind of weird. But yeah, this is crazy.
That the Sky are preparing to move on from Reese entirely. That her time in Chicago might end not with a standing ovation, but with the quiet paperwork of a trade or release. If that happens, her reputation will take a hit that no public apology can repair. Because the league won't forget that when things got tough, she chose to attack instead of unite. In the end, Angel Reese's story has become less about her talent and more about her choices. The choice to throw teammates under the bus. The choice to double down instead of take responsibility. The choice to treat leadership as a spotlight instead of a responsibility. And now she's paying the price. The saddest part? It didn't have to be this way. She could have embraced the role of leader, lifted her teammates, and built something real in Chicago. Instead, she's staring down the end of her time with the franchise, suspended by her own organization and abandoned by teammates who once believed in her. This isn't just a controversy. This is a cautionary tale. A story about how ego, unchecked and unfiltered, can destroy not just chemistry, but careers. And as the Chicago Sky prepare for their next chapter, one thing is certain. Angel Reese's chapter in this book is closing fast.